All right. Are there any questions that the group has right off the bat this morning? Okay. Can everybody see my screen okay? All right. Thanks, Dia. So, in lieu of questions, if you have one, feel free to either use your microphone to let me know or use the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. One of the questions that came through was was about Hatch. And I thought I would address that now. Hatch isn't going completely away with the version that we're going to, but it's a lot less necessary. My understanding is, and I will confirm this with the vendor that we're using for the upgrade, is that Hatch is still useful for sites that need to control multiple printers for Evergreen. It used to be that Hatch could be used to store settings within the system. So those settings would be stored in an application outside of the browser. But that's no longer necessary because those settings will be retained by the server. I'll be finding out more information about that, but I also want to let you know that there's a new version of Hatch which may be useful to those sites that already know that they're going to use multiple printers. Any questions about that before we go on? Okay. I thought I would bring up patron registration. Okay. Register a patron looks pretty much the same, except the fields themselves are bigger than the desktop staff client. One of the things that I don't think I've covered in another session are these choices over here. Right now it's showing all fields. What you can do is limit this to required fields, and it obviously breaks down the display quite a bit. This required fields can be changed on a library by library basis. So if there's fields in the patron registration that your library requires that maybe another site does not, let me know and we can make that change to your library settings. Another possibility is suggested fields, which adds a couple more that are suggested but not required. Here again, the suggested fields can be determined on a library by library basis. So these might be helpful for you as you're filling out the registration form to kind of streamline things for you. Another thing that's been a source of confusion is this password that's provided right here. Most libraries have by default a library setting that says the password for the patron is going to be the patron's phone number, and it takes the last 4 digits of the phone number and saves that as a password. Well, it will show this random password initially because there's no phone number entered in the record. let me look at, and that's something that under suggested fields, I'm not seeing a phone number. So I'm going to switch back to all fields. And then we have our daytime phone and our evening phone and other phone. So once you fill out the patron registration form, fill in the phone number. It will change this password to be the last 4 digits of the phone number if that's the library setting that your library has. Any questions about the patron registration form? Okay. Quiet group. Okay, let me think. What was I going to do next? Let me look down through this. Okay. All right, let's go to something else in the circulation menu. In the other sessions, I've gone through the checkout and check-in screens. So I don't know that I need to maybe I'll go to check-in. You see this line in kind of a pinkish color. This is because I chose one of the check-in modifiers the last time I was working within the staff client, and it remembered that this is not normally a check-in modifier that you want to use, but there was a special case that I needed to suppress holds and transits. So I'm going to come over here under check-in modifiers. And you see where it has a green check mark next to suppress, hold, and transit. I'm going to uncheck that. And now you don't see that pink bar anymore. Some of the check-in modifiers, just to kind of give you an example of some that you could choose if you wanted to. This amnesty mode is very helpful when you're checking some items in that you want to waive all the fines on for extenuating circumstances or other reasons. So that's helpful. When I select that, you see that now that pink bar is showing up at the top, and it's showing what check-in modifier I have active. If I select another one, such as retarget all statuses, okay, it's showing that, but it's not showing both of them. So let me try refreshing the check-in screen. So it's only showing one of them. Curious. For some reason, I thought it would show both. So I don't know whether that's a bug or just something I'm not doing right.
We at Baker use the auto transit slips and amnesty mode together, and it usually shows both.
Okay, let me activate that one. And it does. Curious. So I might check and see whether that's just something the developers missed as to why it displays some and not others. Kind of curious, but it's a good thing that we went through it so you can recognize that sometimes it will show both or all of them, and some will be active but not showing. So it's always good to check this check-in modifiers. It does retain this from session to session. It remembers which ones you have activated. So if you don't want them to be active all the time, you'll need to remember to uncheck it. This retarget all statuses is useful when you are checking in items that are new, to get them to switch from in process to available. That will stimulate the hold process more quickly.
Will it help with, like when things are being repaired and you go to check them in, it always makes you be like, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Let me go back. I saw that there was a chat message that I didn't get to see. Okay, Celine. If you have phone, email, and text selected in Register Patron, which one will it default to? So let's go back to patron registration and see. Okay, so what Celine is referring to, I think, phone, email, and text selected. Okay, so this is for the holds notices. Is that correct, Celine? Is that what you're referring to? Okay. So what it does, if you have all of them selected, it will print out the phone number and the email address on the hold pickup slip, but it will send an email to the patron as well as a text message if you have all of them selected. So basically, it's just more lines of communication with the patron. So it won't select one over the other. It just selects which ones you have and does all of those. Obviously, we don't have automatic phone notification. So the phone being selected just allows it to print on the slip for the library's benefit. Okay, any other questions? All right, let's go back. I'm going to go back. Oh, it's saying it's prompting me because it saw I made a change and it's wanting to make sure I really want to leave. In this case, I didn't even have any patron information in there, so it's totally fine to go ahead and leave. All right, so it's taking me back to the check-in page. One of the things that I like to mention when looking at this page, when you first bring up the web client and register your workstation, when you come in to check in items, this trim list will be checked by default. And so I remind folks to uncheck it so that if you wanted to see more than 20 rows of check-in, you would be able to do that. The strict barcode, just a reminder that that's helpful when you're checking in all of your items and you are using CodaBar barcodes. That will, if there's a misscan with your scanner, it will notice that. This is more important, I think, on checkout than check-in. Because it will give you an error message on the check-in screen. I just saw this box and wanted to talk about that. Thinking about, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this page. A lot of this operates the same as the desktop staff client. Here, this downward arrow over here allows you to do some things like manage your column widths, manage columns. You can also determine which columns are displaying by looking at this list and checking things or unchecking things. And once you make those changes, click on Save Columns, and it will alter this particular grid. Okay, let's go back to the circulation menu. All right, capture holds, you're all familiar with that. That's an alternative to checking something in to capture a hold. Most people use the check-in screen, but you could use the capture holds selection as well to indicate that you're going to fulfill a hold. So let's go to the pull list. Okay, we've looked at this before. It does sort it automatically by shelving location now. You could print the full list. It will give me a print preview of what that's going to look like. And this is the table that will display on your printer.
Is there any way for individual libraries to adjust what's in that view? Or what it prints from the printful list?
That's a very good question, Heather. Let me go into another tab that I already have open. And let's look at what print templates are available to us. Print templates. I don't believe that that's one that is available to us right now. Okay, we have
Hold pull list?
So what it's showing in here is title, author, shelf location, call number, barcode. Is that the same? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields. We come back over here. Sorry, I need to bring up my secondary. Oh, I guess my other window went away. It's buried. Let's click on the print full list again. This is something I hadn't looked at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many columns did I say we had?
I thought you said 5.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
I thought
I
said.
I think it was 6.
Oh.
Was it?
Dia's probably more right than I am.
Well, this looks like
6.
This looks like the order that things were in on that that list. So it does look as if we could alter this. Heather, were there additional fields that you wanted to add?
Yeah, the person who does our pull list in the morning wanted whatever library it was going to, so that when our branches come in the morning, she could like get all of Sumter's out of the way really fast while she was there, and she can't do that on the current list.
Okay. So we could look at altering this. I'm looking for something and not seeing it. There is a place where you can go to find all the variables you can use within the template. Sometimes those are listed here at the top. But I know that I have another source that we could look at to see what fields we could use within this template. So what we would do is look for those fields and then alter this template to add additional, this is the table header area right here that shows these column headings. So we would add another table heading for our column, and then we would add the actual data component down here. So John and I can work with you and any other library that wants to alter this. So I'll make a note of this, Heather, and see what data elements we can use within this template. Maybe we could get that changed even before we migrate to the new version.
Thanks.
Okay, so let me skip back to this print list. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this right now. One of the things that you can do if you've got this pull list up and you're curious about the particular item that's being requested. I don't know why you'd be curious, but I wanted to show you that anytime you see this barcode underlined, you can actually click on it and it will bring up the summary display, characteristics of the item. You can look at its recent circ history, holds and transits, that obviously it's not been captured for a hold. It's not in transit yet because it's on your pull list. But these are the different tabs that you can go through to look at details about the item. Now, if I want to go back, I just click back to list view. Oh, no, that doesn't really work. It takes me back to the list view of the item status. I can use the back arrow in my browser to get back to where I really was, but it's not doing it. Yes, it is. Okay. So the back arrow will take you back to where you were, or you can just go to the circulation menu and click on pull list again. Okay. Just like just like the desktop staff client, if there's a particular item you know that you can't send for whatever reason, you can select it, and under actions, you can either mark the item missing, damaged, or this find another target, which says, you know, I'm not able to fulfill this hold for right now because I know, for instance, maybe I know that my children's librarian is going to use it for a story time, and I want that hold to go to another library. So I'm going to go ahead and unselect that. One of the helpful things over here, it shows you how many potential copies there are. So that will give you an indication, oh, if there's only one potential copy, if I try to find another target, that's not going to work. It's going to still stay on my library because I'm the only copy. So that's just some helpful information for you to know. All right, don't see any chat messages. Any more questions about the holds pull list? Okay. Something that came up the other day, and I thought if one person had a question, the others might have a question. In the web client, I'm going to go to the home page. The transit list is a little bit more buried in the web client than it was originally. I believe I remember seeing it in one of the other menus, but now what you have to do to print a transit report or look at your transits is to go to Administration, Local, and Transit List. This transit list shows all the transits to and the transits from your library. Right now I'm logged in as a Union workstation. So right now it's showing me the transits that were happening today. But you can change this start and end date time period to anything you want. So I could look at what's on its way to me. These were things that were sent to Union by the Ontario Community Library. But if I expanded this date and chose something that maybe a week ago, it will refresh the screen and show me all the things that are on their way to Union, which is quite a list. They've been busy. So anyway, this is a good resource to kind of help you know how many resources are coming into your library, as well as maybe your patron has a particular question about their books and you want to come into a list and look at that. Obviously, you can find out things that are in transit in the individual patrons' records, and that's probably more direct than looking at this because the patron's name does not display on this unless I go over to here and I scan down. I can activate the last name and the first name of the patron involved in this particular transit if I wanted to add that to the transit list. Okay. These were transits to Union. If I wanted to know about transits from, you can see that there's nothing, well, nothing showing yet. Here we go. I still have my 1 week time period here. And so you can see that Union sent something to Hood River on the 11th. This is also an area that you can come into to look at transits that have been in the system way too long. So I could change this date back to, well, it's probably not good to use the calendar if I'm going to go back years and years. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, I'll type in 2011, 01, 01. Okay. Because I didn't change my end date, it's still showing current things. I could also change my end date to something like 3 weeks in the past, and it will show, but it also shows in order of send date some old transits here at the top. And so these are things that we want to check out because most likely these are things that did not get checked in at their home library. This is Ione High School, and very likely when it got there, they just put it on the shelf, and it has been in transit ever since, which means nobody can request it if it's a unique item. So these are things that we want to clear up from time to time. Yeah, so I'll talk to Union about this, or actually I'll talk to Ione High School about this particular item, have them check the shelves and check it in. Hopefully it really is there. So any questions about this transit list? there is a report that is already automatically happening that shows everybody's transit. I'll briefly show you that. Let's see. New tab. Okay, this is, you just use any login for your particular library. It will show all the weekly holds reports, weekly circulation statistics. These reports are automatically generated on a weekly or monthly basis. We've got, and the transit report is a monthly report. So here we've got monthly old transit reports in transit for 1 month or more. So we could click on November's. I'll just bring up the spreadsheet real quick so you can see what it looks like. And basically it just shows the source location. It's in transit. This one's in reshelving. It just shows where it was going to and the date. But as you can see, this is a really long list. And it might actually be quicker to do that transit list that I was showing you if you want to narrow it down to just your library. You could narrow it down by going through the spreadsheet and just selecting certain cells. But I think that transit list on the other page was much more effective. So let me show you a couple different ways you could print this list. You could print transits, but I don't like what displays on this. I don't think it's lined up well. So, I mean, this is kind of like a receipt template type printout, which in my case, I don't think would be as useful. So I'm going to cancel that and show you over here under this right-hand arrow, there's what's called a print full grid. And if I bring that up, what it sends to the printer is an actual spreadsheet looking display that is a lot more useful. The other thing you could do is you could actually download the full CSV, which means comma separated values, and that is something that you can import into a spreadsheet. So there's several different ways you can handle this. And I see that we are after our half hour, so I think I'll wrap things up for today. Unless any of you have questions, we'll be doing more sessions before the upgrade. And this recording will be available, of course, too. Any questions? Okay, if you think of anything after this session is over, please go ahead and send John or I an email. We'd be happy to help. Hope everybody has a great day.